Hey everyone, Richard
Hello.
here, and
AJ here,
yeah,
too.
And this is just a quick little unexpected bonus episode we're throwing your way, and it's just to announce something very special, something that you might have seen coming if you did our survey recently, and if you did, thank you very much for filling that in.
Thank you so much.
We are here today to announce that we are launching a Patreon. AJ,
That's right.
what is Patreon anyway?
So Patreon is basically a way that you can support the creators whose content you enjoy by donating money to them, and in return you get stuff as well. And so you could look at this as AJ and Richard are trying to get money out of their humble listenership, or you could look at it as we're launching a new podcast.
Yeah, so it's
depending
not,
on how you look at it.
Don't look at it like you're donating money to us, like you're giving us free money and we expect you to take pity on us. This is, we're launching a subscription-based podcast, a new premium podcast specifically for people supporting us on Patreon. But AJ, this sounds too good to be true. How much is this going to cost me?
Well, to get the podcast, do we want to do the podcast first or the smaller tiers first?
Oh, let's just go through. So the way Patreon works is that you can you pledge a certain amount per month, and then on the first of every month you are charged that amount. You can pledge whatever amount you want, and you get a reward. If you've ever heard of Kickstarter, it's basically the same thing, but it's a reoccurring thing.
It's more catered to podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff as well than Kickstarter is. Yeah. Okay, so at our Patreon, which is patreon.com/cultpopshow, one word. It's not Cult Pop Show, one word, it's just Cult Pop Show, but there's no hyphen. We have a few tiers going, so if you donate $1 a month, you'll become part of our Drinking the Kool-Aid tier, because we're Cult Pop Show, join the cult, right? So for $1, and this is a big deal, our $1 tier is something I think our regular listeners will be very excited about. For $1, you can suggest and vote for every second franchise that we cover on the podcast. So that's one whole episode a month that'll be chosen by you guys, the listeners. So how that'll work is Patreon sort of has like a news feed that's similar to Facebook. So we'll post on there, and if you go there now after you've listened to this, you'll see it there. We'll post, hey, what's the next franchise we should cover? And you can suggest in the comments, and the comment with the most likes from the other patrons is going to be the one that decides what one we do. This came out of a couple of things. One is we do want to give people what they want, and a lot of people in the comments are often suggesting franchises, even though we can't do them because usually we select it randomly. And also, after the Scream and Mission Impossible episodes, we got some really nice feedback saying that people really liked it when we liked the franchise that we were covering. And while we didn't want to completely skew it in our favour, we thought we'd make you, the listeners, responsible for what we listen to now. So if you want us to watch franchises we'll enjoy, that's up to you now.
It's in your hands.
Yep.
And so
that'll be every second franchise. Every other franchise will be decided the random way as per usual.
Yeah. Now, but AJ, you mentioned something about a new podcast. How do I get that?
Well, Richard, you could join our $5 tier. So for $5 a month, you become part of our cult member tier. And in that, you'll have access to one of our exclusive new podcasts called Film Franchise Follow-Ups. Or And what is Film Franchise Follow-Ups, Richard?
Well, Film Franchise Follow-Ups is an idea that AJ and I have toyed around for a long time, but we weren't sure exactly how to do. But the idea is that once a month we will be uploading a new episode of this podcast where we discuss and review a new piece of media or an extra piece of media relating to a franchise we've already covered on the podcast. So some examples might be like since we did the Spider-Man movies, there's now been another Spider-Man reboot, so we could cover that. Or there's been new X-Men movies since we covered X-Men. Medea's had a couple of new movies, but also
Godzilla's had a 3-part trilogy as well.
Yeah, and but not only that, like Ash has Ash vs. Evil Dead. Scream had the TV series, which I've watched and AJ hasn't watched yet. But there's like comic book tie-ins, there's video games we'll play. So basically just anything that relates to a franchise we've already covered, is up for grabs.
The one rule we have is that it has to be a new story. So we won't be like reading the Twilight books, for example. It has to be like a expansion upon a franchise we've covered.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that can be, you can listen to that for only $5 a month.
And our next tier we've got is called Cult Leader, and that's our $10 tier. And so for $10 a month, you get not only one extra podcast, you get 2 extra podcasts, including film franchise follow-ups, and we haven't come up with a name for the other one. I guess it's just generic _movie_podcast.exe. And that'll basically be, you guys tell us a movie that you want us to talk about, we'll watch that movie and do a podcast on it.
Just any random movie, could be anything.
Pitch a sequel and that kind of thing, what we usually do with film franchise fortnights, but only with one movie.
Yeah, and will allow us to get a lot more in-depth, you would hope. But also I should mention as well that whatever tier you subscribe to, you also get the benefits of the previous tiers.
Exactly.
So it's not only the $1 people that are able to vote and look at the post, it's everyone above that as well.
So cult leaders get 2 podcasts a month, cult members get 1 podcast a month, and Drinking the Kool-Aid people get they get to suggest and vote on our next franchise. So those are our 3 main tiers. Now we have a couple more that are a bit, they won't be as sought after, I'm sure, but we'll go over them anyway. So we have another tier here called the Alexander Jonestown Massacre, and that every month that'll reset. So at the moment it's set to September. And so one of our lucky patrons, if they're willing to buy the Alexander Jonestown Massacre for $30 each month, then they get to tell me what they want me to make a video essay on. So if you've always wanted to see a video essay on how the legend of Zorro was influenced by 9/11, I'll do it. If you just want me to talk about Teletubbies for 3 to 5 minutes, I'll do that too.
The thing we're going to do with this tier as well is we've got it locked to one patron, and then at the end of each month we'll get rid of that tier and replace it with a new one. So, I mean, you could just keep buying it every month if you wanted to have control over what AJ does, but the idea is that that's a sort of rotating one that you're not stuck in pledging $30 every month, and you're also Yeah,
and I'm sure there will be months where no one buys that one. At all.
Probably a lot of months.
And then the last tier we've got is kind of ridiculous, and it's more there as a joke.
But I mean, if you pay for it.
Yeah, it's called Access to the Lost Episode, and for $1,000 per month, I guess you can keep paying and have continual access to the Lost Episode, which is an infamous milestone in Cult Popture's history, where Richard and I nearly stopped being friends because I pranked him.
It's more nuanced than that, but
yeah, of course. And there's a better description on our Patreon for that. So those are our 5 tiers. Really, we've got 3 tiers. One that hopefully people will be interested in, and one that's just kind of a meme. But that's okay too. And this will also be a cool place for people who are more wanting to have discussions, maybe to come and hang out as well, because you can there is a community post there. So, but another thing we wanted to do is we are open to suggestions, because this is what we think you guys would want based off what we know our fans are interested in and what they've told us before. We've had a lot of people say they want to choose the franchise. We've had a lot of people say they want us to revisit old franchises. So this is kind of what we think you want. But we are more than happy to get creative with it. And if you've got an idea for a tier that you'd want, then please feel free to suggest that. We don't know what else to give people. One idea we did have, and this isn't officially a tier yet, but if this gets minimal support, then we'll put it up there. So probably for $12 to $15 a month, it'll be similar actually to the Alexander Jonestown Massacre, and that'll only have one. You buy it and then it resets, so it'll be a different person choosing the subject each month. We thought of a tier called Shinrikyo, which, similar to the Alexander Jonestown Massacre, being a nod to another cult. Shinrikyo is like a Japanese cult, I think. And our very good friend here, Richard, whatever, he goes by Ricky.
I've never gone by Ricky.
We were thinking something like, if you pay, say, $12 to $15, you give Richard a subject to rant about, and he'll film himself and post it on the Patreon of him ranting about whatever subject you want.
I will yes and your hatred.
Even if you disagree with the moot, you'll still argue it.
Because the idea is that AJ's good at editing and making video essays, and my only skill is just getting real angry at shit.
Yeah. So if you guys want that, let us know. That's a reserved. That's a maybe tier. And maybe you do want it, but you don't want to pay $12 to $15 for it, and that's fine as well. We can lower the price and figure out what people are. We're more thinking of it in terms of progressing what people get. And again, if you guys have any other ideas, please let us know. So with all this being said, head on over now to patreon.com/cultpopture to vote on our next franchise that we're doing, to listen to film franchise follow-ups, to listen to
generic movie podcast.exe.
Yeah, listen to these things and tell us what you guys want. We wouldn't. I want to make we wouldn't have started this if people hadn't told us to do it. Does that make sense? We did this because people showed genuine interest in it, and it's not us trying to be like, now that we've been going for 2 years, how can we squeeze more dosh out of people? It's more, people want this stuff, and hey, who are we to deny the people what they want?
At the same time, it's stuff we want to do, but yeah,
exactly,
we're not going to do it for free.
Yeah. So head on over now to patreon.com/cultpopture and become a patron today. Join the cult.